In this video, we're going to show you some troubleshooting tips for your Tippmann A5 having velocity issues. Now, these issues will cover anything from low velocity to high velocity or inconsistent velocity. First thing I always check before actually going into the marker for any kind of velocity issue, whether it be inconsistent, low or high velocity, is always the tank. You always want to check your tank before actually, thinking that there's a problem with the marker. Obviously, any kind of low air source will cause low velocity. A high pressure tank, if it has, a regulator on there that's regulating the pressure, you want to always check to make sure that that regulator is outputting a consistent pressure. High output tanks are what you're going to want to use on any of our Tippmann markers. What I mean by that is a tank that has an output pressure of 800 to 850 psi. Anything lower than that will obviously provide low velocity for your Tippmann A5. So always make sure you're using a high pressure air tank or CO2 tank. Another thing is always check your paint to barrel match. You always want to make sure that you have paint that actually somewhat fits your barrel correctly. What I mean by this is you want the paint to somewhat grab the edges of the barrel. You don't want it to roll through, and you don't want it to be too tight, because too tight in the barrel you'll obviously have ball breaks. So those are just some of the basic things. Once you've kind of troubleshoot those things and you find out that it's none of these outside factors, you almost guarantee that there's something wrong with the gun, then it's time to get into the gun and check it out. Now, we'll go ahead and we'll do that. Kind of show you what to look for on the inside of the marker. We'll just go ahead and remove all 4 of our push pins. And one thing too, you want to make sure your marker's uncocked before you actually remove this last push pin here, because you can get that drive spring and end cap to pop out on you. So we'll go ahead and remove all that, and we'll remove our grip frame and our tombstone. And the first thing I always want to show people is the power tube and the valve assembly. One of the biggest things that can cause inconsistent velocity or low velocity would be a crack in your power tube assembly. A crack in your power tube assembly will, also cause the gun to malfunction, might not fire correctly, but it'll usually provide really low velocity, 200s, 220s, stuff like that. So always check the power tube, make sure it's, free and clear of any kind of dirt or debris, and also make sure that that power tube isn't cracked. Most of the time it'll usually crack right here along the bottom side of it. So as you can see, this power tube doesn't have any cracks to it, so this power tube should be fine. Now, another thing that I want to kind of show you is the front bolt. You have O-ring that's on the very tip of this front bolt. Now, if this O-ring is either missing or it's damaged, that will cause low velocity as well. So always check your front bolt O-ring, make sure it's nice and intact. If it looks like it's starting to get a little flat spots on it and stuff like that, that's probably time for replacing. Same thing goes for your rear bolt O-ring. Another real common one, if your rear bolt O-ring is swelling up and stuff like that, it won't be able to enter the power tube smoothly. So what will happen is it's having a hard time to enter that power tube, which could also result in low velocity or just the marker not wanting to shoot correctly. Usually on average, just maintenance wise, I usually replace them once a year. Just kind of go through and replace everything just to ensure that I'm going to get good velocity at the chronograph. Now, some other thing that I want to talk about is your drive spring. Now, your drive spring, I usually recommend that you replace this, once a year. The drive spring is, obviously what makes this whole assembly work. Once this starts to lose tension, you'll lose velocity. Now, you'll have some rare occasions where you'll have really, really high velocity. Now, I've seen in some cases where some of these guns, they come off the factory floor, and this drive spring might be on the higher end of the tolerance, so you're getting really, really hot shots at the chronograph. And usually when that happens, some of our techs here will take, just take a coil or two off the drive spring, just kind of clip that off, and that'll usually bring it back down to where it needs to be. You also want to obviously try turning in your velocity screw first before you actually clip the drive spring. With the velocity screw, which you can kind of see on the outside of this power tube, I'll go ahead and kind of get a close-up of that. You have your velocity screw. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a 3/16 velocity screw. You have an access port on the right-hand side of the Tippmann A5 where you can actually access that from the outside and make your adjustments. Usually, want to turn that in first to decrease your velocity. You're going to turn it clockwise to turn it down, counterclockwise to turn it back up. So you always want to try adjusting your velocity screw first before making any kind of adjustments to your drive spring. So we'll go ahead and we'll reinsert everything back into our receiver here. And like before, you just want to kind of take your tool and put it down into the power tube assembly, that little rectangular opening, and just kind of pull your whole assembly back towards the barrel until it slides into place. And then from there, we'll go ahead and reinstall our tombstone. Go ahead and put our push pin back in. Go ahead and reinstall our grip frame, our drive spring, and our guide pin. Go ahead and get that in place. Go ahead and put our end cap back on. Go ahead and finish installing all our push pins. And I'll just show you real quick the adjustment on the velocity screw before we actually finish up this video. I'll kind of show you the adjustment range. This velocity screw is flush with the power tube, and we'll go ahead, we'll turn it all the way in until it stops, and right there it's pretty much stopped. I mean, it's buried in the power tube, and the way the velocity screw works is it just reduces the airflow that comes down the barrel. So turning it in clockwise all the way until it stops, it'll be at the lowest set point, which will be around 200 to 220 feet per second. And then from there, I'll kind of show you, and you can kind of see how many turns I'm going. And right there, I'm about flush with the power tube. Being flush with the power tube is going to put you in and around 275 to 285 feet per second. And then we'll go ahead and we'll back it out until we're actually flush with the receiver. And flush with the receiver, that's the maximum velocity setting right there. That setting, it can put you anywhere from 310 feet per second all the way up to 325, depending on your paint to barrel match. So one thing is you always want to make sure that you get your marker chronograph before you go out and play with any other players, just to ensure that you're not shooting over 300 feet per second. And that is the troubleshooting for the Tippmann A5 with velocity issues.